The ego, as I mentioned, is not bad. It's a natural part of our psychological and biological mechanisms. It's there to protect us, to make us feel secure, and establish boundaries. That, in and of itself, is not negative. The problem is that we assigned the ego unconsciously to work towards protecting our self-image. This social construct. Every minute of the day, it is trying to protect the fictional character. And in so, it's now overtaken all areas and activities of your life. It has taken over the whole house, constantly creating this internal mental chatter, all for the sake of saving face, establishing dominance, self-importance, overprotectiveness, you name it. We all suffer from a case of mistaken identity. This false construct that we serve and protect. Holding on to the ego's paradigm is what causes mental illness, instability, pathology, neurosis, fear, hate, violence, and suffering. Once you understand it and you observe it for what it is within yourself, you can be free from it. You can disentangle yourself from this web of I. This way you don't get triggered and overreact. You don't become unconscious through it. They can only successfully play a game with you when you're unconscious. So if you're protecting it, if you're justifying it, if you're defending it, you're doing it at the cost of your sovereignty, your inner peace, your presence. Do not give any compassion to the ego in a sense of allowing it to say and do whatever it feels through you. You give it an inch, it will take a mile because it feels safe, it feels in control, and it wants to dominate, waste time, and divert your energy. It has the incumbent advantage because you're not aware of the game it's playing. Well, this has been with you for thousands of years through the collective unconscious. The ego is a wonderful servant, but a lousy master. So you cannot give any credence to the ego within yourself. When you are completely possessed by the mind, you do unconscious things. You think about unconscious things. Your life is in habitual mode of personhood. Be your own permission slip and recognize when the ego is present within you so that you can be able to stop it before it takes over the ship and creates mutiny. It does take practice. It does not have to be a struggle. This information is like water or electricity. It takes the path of least resistance. So you have to raise your frequency so that you're more sensitive as a receiver to pick up higher frequencies of presence. And you always have to ask yourself what you are choosing. In any given moment, you could choose to react out of memory, out of habit, or you can choose to respond with mindful presence. The more present you are, the more you have the ability to respond. And the decisions you make will bring you more grounded within your centeredness. This way, you don't have regrets, guilt, bitterness, anger, or resentment. You recognize that you've made the choice in awareness. Stop holding on to negative belief systems that generate emotions that do not make you feel grounded in your being. You have to make a decision in any given moment to go beyond the egoic mind and see through the smoke and mirrors. Now, if you are working with a partner to deal with each other on a more deeper, authentic level, if they're not in a volatile state, completely mind-possessed, then checking somebody's ego is not a problem. Once you point out to them that their ego has taken over, then expressing these things to help someone to become more present can be useful. If you don't feel that is a good time, then it's probably best to remain present yourself in their place so that you can be in a position to help them based on your spiritual energy. All that you can do with somebody that you're with is offer them a higher vibration or frequency. And that offers them the opportunity to decide whether or not they are going to stay on the frequency of presence. Do not allow the ego to take over your body, putting it in the driver's seat while you are trapped in the passenger seat. Do not argue and fight for your personal limitations, your fears, your negative thoughts and feelings. Because when you argue for it, you give your ego legitimacy and you make it more real and it becomes more powerful through you. This is how you can find out the definition that you hold about yourself and others that are generating the feelings of fear and separateness and powerlessness. You must find and identify it if you want to change it. Otherwise, it will continue to perpetuate through you. The egoic mind is remarkably skilled in protecting itself. So you have to observe and identify the self-defense mechanisms, coping mechanisms, and mazes that the ego creates to hide itself from yourself. Identify, map, and expose the old learned core beliefs, all the blind spots of the mind, and pull them to the surface. This will give you the opportunity to redefine the experiences you had from the ego's language and point of view, and have the space to create a more positive and empowering way from observing presence behind the content of your mind. Identification with the ego gives it more energy, but observing the mind withdraws your energetic attention from it. So take the time out to expose the ego for what it is within yourself. Call it out. The more you're aware of it, the less power and control it has over you. Then you have the opportunity to choose the higher mind. Helping others to do the same is an act of love. You're helping others to help themselves. Because once the ego takes over, it robs you of peace, harmony, love. And one thing the ego cannot do is love. It only knows division, it only knows separateness. It lives in fear. You cannot go anywhere if your feet is still planted in illusion. So let this truth resonate within your deepest knowing. Make the proper adjustments and throw the old narratives away. Be transparent, be selfless, humble. Open the doors to the beginner's mind, because the more you're in a state of learning, the more receptive you're going to be.